Hey everybody, and welcome back to That Plumbing Podcast. I'm Brandon the Plumber, and this is episode 26. In this episode, I have Josh with us again, and Grant. Hey, Grant, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm back.
He's back, yeah. Grant works with me, and he has, for some reason, decided to take on the responsibility of creating our apprenticeship program from scratch. Because what did y'all do? Y'all always hired people with experience or just threw them in the truck? How did that work before I got there?
All different kind of ways. That's
Yeah.
why we've decided let's just actually put something together. For a long time, it was one of those things where they do like a ride along with either me or boss man, and then as many times as I was like, "Hey, they're not ready yet," they're like, "Too bad, we're throwing them in a truck anyway." Like, and it's one of those
Yeah.
things where I'm like, "Hey, if you set them up for failure, you can't be it when they fail."
It's true.
Yeah, because in Arizona, you don't need to go through an apprenticeship. Only the owner has to have his license. And you've turned out, the company we work for have turned out guys in as little as 3 months before, from knowing nothing to in their own van? Or
Yeah, they were freaks of nature. It's not normal, and I really can't take as much credit for that as they deserve the credit themselves. They just took to it like ducks to water.
Okay, so but typically the trend is for them to not be ready.
Yeah, generally speaking, 3 months, even 6 months, I would not expect that someone could pretty much just go into their own truck and then be able to just fly solo and then do even somewhat complicated jobs. That's just not typically the norm. Even me, I would say, probably took me a good 5-6 years before all of a sudden like the light bulb went off and just everything just seemed to make sense.
Tell you what, let's start at the beginning. I know you've been on in episodes before, but why don't you just go back over real quick how you got into plumbing? What was your apprenticeship like? What was your mentor like? It's going to start there.
Originally, I was going to be a carpenter. I went through OTech during high school, and they just had us cleaning the shop for 2 weeks. The next thing was like HVAC, and being from Michigan, they're like, "Oh, hey, you're never going to be outside in the wintertime." I was like, "Sweet, sign me up." That was a blatant lie. And it also turns out that I'm not very good with electrical troubleshooting. If there's more than 3 wires, probably going to have an issue. When I started my apprenticeship, they put me with the plumbers from day one. And then from doing that, I went into fire suppression work. I worked at Luke's Air Force, putting in the cooling tower, and really started off doing like new construction type stuff. A little bit of residential, but not like a ton. And it wasn't really until I got laid off back in the Great Recession and then ended up having to move out here to Arizona. And even after that, maybe like a couple of years of bouncing around from company to company because work was dry. I was like, all right, I'm going to have to just do service, I think, because there's just no construction. So having the new construction background helped. Then it was really more or less just wrapping your head around troubleshooting, trying to understand how things work so that you can understand why something's not working the way it should. And just ended up having a knack for it, really.
What was your apprenticeship like in particular?
In the very beginning, it was, I think, I don't want to say structured, but it was really more like you're with a certain group of guys all the time, so you get to learn how at least their way of doing things is, learning the basics. Once I moved out here, it just always felt like I was getting yelled at for everything. It wouldn't matter what it was. Like, you go to a job site and a guy would be like, "Okay, so I hear you know how to do this, so why don't we go ahead and have you do this?" And then you'd be doing it. He'd come by and be like, "Who told you how to do it that way?" "Oh, well, so-and-so. He's an idiot. Do it this way." And then that would happen several times. And then at a certain point, you're like, which way is the right way to do it? The answer is all of them.
Too many people trying to tell you what to do. No standard. It might be a little different on new construction because you have basically journeymans everywhere, right? Or are you assigned one journeyman? That's your guy. How does it work?
There's like a foreman who's not in charge of the whole thing. But you might either be working closely with him, or you might be working with somebody else with the crew, or multiple different guys from the crew, or he might just be putting you on a task by yourself that he's fairly confident that you know how to do by yourself, and then he just checks up on you, or you help out wherever.
So it could be any journeyman there is like technically over you and can tell you what to do. You're an apprentice, so but did you report to one guy specifically?
Yeah, usually the foreman.
The foreman, okay, not a journeyman, the foreman.
Well, he probably was a journeyman himself or the equivalent.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Just it's a position in the company.
Yeah, he was in charge of the actual job, like our portion of the job.
What was some of the pros and cons of your apprenticeship?
I think some of the pros was definitely learning how to do multiple things, multiple different ways, so that if for some reason you can't do it a certain way, then a way around it because you've done it multiple different ways. Also, with getting yelled at for everything, it does sear things into your brain so you don't make the same mistakes, hopefully. The downsides, though, is, and what I really want to fix when it comes to me training, is breaking someone down almost like in a military type fashion in order to build them the way that you want. I don't really subscribe to that theory. I think that you can foster them
Talents.
while also teaching them how to do the job. I don't think you
Mm.
have to make them feel like shit before you make them feel like gold.
What about you, Josh? I know you talked about it before, but what would you describe your apprenticeship?
Yeah, that's how like the plumbing industry is, or all trades for that matter. Is they always break you down and then they bring you up. The company I used to work for, we had what we called like the octagon, and that was just like the table that we all sat around in the morning, and it was like just trying to cut the other guy down as much as you could, like in the morning. That's just like part of the camaraderie that you build over time with those guys. And obviously, once you get out in the field, it's a different story. They got your back and stuff, but it's something that takes a little bit of getting used to if you've never done that, because it is a little harsh whenever you're like, man, I'm just trying to learn. I don't know what I'm doing. Don't smack me down. But once you get over that, it's easier to learn the right way and do stuff, like you said, multiple different ways. I think it needs to change, because I think that's like an older mentality that's been used throughout the trades for years and years. But I think as we progress into the future, it's going to have to change to something that's more positive reinforcement, more encouraging for growth.
Graham, you were like a field supervisor to now taking on this role, which I'm sure is very different and probably not what you were quite expecting. So what motivated you to do it, and how is that going so far? The money. Jeez. Just date a technician if you want to make money.
I'm kidding. Good numbers. No, I've been wanting to do something like this for a while. I enjoy teaching, and it was my way of giving back to the industry. And seeing as how there's a huge shortage of guys coming up, I wanted to be part of the solution in shoring that gap up. Not just doing that, but in a positive way, and then also making sure that they are competent when they're done through trial and error, through tested means, and then just slowly or fast, depending on how fast they pick it up. When it comes to an apprenticeship thing, at least with what I'm building, it's really more or less they progress at their own pace. If they're stuck in a level for like maybe 6 months to a year, no big deal. You know what I'm saying? Everybody learns a little bit different. I think I was myself maybe somewhat of a late bloomer. But if that's the case, then that's proof that even if you are a late bloomer, that you can be successful once it finally clicks.
You don't have to be right out of high school. If you're 40, whatever age you want to get into it, it can totally be done. So if you're a little bit older in life, don't think that it's too late. No matter what, you can be making six figures, in 5 years, 4 years, once you get your license. Phoenix even sooner, places like here. So it's never too late. From what I understand, you have different levels in mind for apprenticeship. I'm sure a lot of it's you're working it out as you go, but what's like your general picture of it?
We've got 4 levels, at least for apprenticeship. Level 1 is one of those things where it's absolutely nothing coming in. You're greener than grass. You come in and you learn basic hand tools, how to use them, what they're used for, what they're called, not just a technical term, but what everybody in the field is going to call them. And then usually that should take like 30 days for you to get through that. And that will also let me know if I think you've initially got what it takes to do this. Within a month, you're going to know whether a guy's got work ethic, if he doesn't want to get his hands dirty, things like that. You're just going to know. Sometimes even within the first week.
Okay, we hire you on. Let's assume you are green. Like you said, you're greener than grass. You don't have anything. Yeah. And you're saying in 30 days, which I do agree with, you're going to have a pretty good indicator if they're going to make it or not. So break that down a little bit more. What is it that you're looking for specifically, roughly, in that 30 days?
Work ethic, willing to work hard, willing to listen, willing to watch, do what you're asked to do. If you're on a job site, obviously wield a shovel, which I know sucks, but we've all done it. And even continue to do it sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
I would also say show some aptitude, some initiative, trying to be a self-starter, trying to look for things to do. Ask, hey, are we done with this tool? Are we done with this? Can we put it back in the truck? Things like that. Try to stay busy unless I specifically say, hey, I want you to watch me do this so you can learn how to do it, or whatever the case is. show me that you're hungry. Show me that you want to be here. Show me that you want to learn, because not everybody does that.
I know something that was really big whenever I first started is I started off in the ditch on the excavation crew. And every morning we would show up to the job site. My job was to hop out of the truck, make sure I could take the booms and the chains off the machine, put the ramps down, get the cones out, get the batteries start charging, get the extension cord out, get the tools out, like everything while he's taking the machine off and getting it ready to dig. Have all of that stuff ready. By the time he's done digging that hole, I can hop down there with the ladder, get in there, do the repair, get out. We're trying to get this done quick. And so I think that's something that really helped me when I first started was just trying to be ahead of that game is, yeah, like you said, taking the initiative to figure out what do we need right now and how is this going to make the job go quicker.
Exactly. That's huge. That's going to show everybody who you haven't gotten respect from yet and haven't earned that respect yet. That's a good way to start, especially older guys who maybe are a little set in their ways. Maybe it's not quite as easy for you to earn their trust. Those are steps that are going to start getting you progressed into doing that. So that would probably be apprenticeship level 1. Apprenticeship level 2.
Aptitude and initiative. That's a very broad word. That can mean many things, especially within the first 30 days. We just had a couple of guys come through. One guy obviously lied on his experience, because I think what people, unless you're in the field and if you're an apprentice, be honest. Or let's say you have some experience. Let's start there, which is what this guy had. Be honest about it. Don't say you have X amount of years and then you really don't, because you can tell when someone is not confident in their movements, in the way they talk, in the way they handle things. You can tell a difference between a guy that really knows what he's doing, which is what you probably should be at 7 years, versus a guy that has a few months or something along those lines. So the aptitude and initiative is huge. What are some of the red flags that you're looking for within those 30 days?
Constantly looking at your phone.
Boom.
Would be one.
Perfect.
Standing around looking. You have no care in the world as to what to do. You have no problem just standing around doing anything, just following people like a puppy dog from place to place, unless they're specifically telling you that they want you to follow them around. Constantly looking for ways to get out of doing stuff.
Leaving early.
Yeah, exactly. Or being late by a decent amount.
That's probably where it starts, right then and there.
Yeah,
early
and then
or late.
giving excuses like, "Oh, GPS took me here." It's just like, dude, you've been to my house before. Come on, you know how to get here. Stuff like that.
Have you had to fire anybody over any of those red flags quite yet?
Thankfully, my boss did that for me. But from now on, I'm pretty sure that's going to be my job.
I was gonna say, that's probably the next step.
Yeah, it was like one of those things where I'm like, I don't have the heart to do this myself yet. Let me work up to that.
That's fair.
And hopefully that'll change, because you'll actually be in on the interview process and you have some say, because you can probably tell a lot just from the interview, how they talk and whatnot. So that's pretty crucial. And in that whole process, and honestly, I know what you're talking about, because we work the same company, but those guys did that to themselves. You firing them, it's a great opportunity. There may not be a whole bunch of apprentices in line, but we have apprentices in line, like at our company. So if you're not working out, it's best for everyone. So then that's probably like a level 1 to 2, possibly. They've proven they have aptitude. I'm going to say aptitude for like mechanical stuff. So you can tell them to do something. They may not have necessarily done that exact task. Let's say removing a threaded hose bib from a manifold. They understand the concept that you have to hold back up or you're going to twist the copper out. And they're using the wrenches the right way and stuff. So like that ability to be given a task and they will at least get started properly, something like that. What do you say?
Yeah, some of the things that I started teaching the guys right away was based off of the list that you had given me from being the service manager, and then Dustin had given me from being the install manager, which was basically like, this is what I basically need somebody to be able to do in order to function on one of my jobs, which for you was the 3 vitals. And then our boss adding one thing to make sure they know where their main shutoff valve is, right? So they know how to do water quality tests. They know how to do a water pressure test. They know how to go about looking to survey how old something is. And then the main shutoff. And then with Dustin, it was make sure they know how to put Teflon tape on threads the right way, which never ceases to amaze me how many people do that backwards right off the bat. But I digress. And then being able to use a shovel You don't even have to be great at using a shovel right off the bat, but at least be willing to use a shovel. And then there was some other basic things like be able to clean stuff up, be able to look ahead to, okay, we're done in this area. Let's sweep it up and get it clean. Like somehow be useful. Level 2 is a little bit more advanced. I would say probably within 90 days or so. My guess would be someone should be past that point because that's really more or less getting through the basic stuff. Like you already know the basics, but now it's all right, we're doing copper. So I'm going to go ahead and all of these fittings, I'm going to make sure that they're cleaned up and fluxed and ready to go. If he needs pipe, I'm going to have the right size and the right fittings there. I'm going to have my own tape measure with me so I can be his cut man or I can be his ground guy or whatever the case is. It's really more or less starting to anticipate needs of the guys who are working with you and that are technically like in charge of you. So you can make the job go faster because the stuff that normally we would have to do by ourselves is now being done for us. You just basically put your hand out and they're putting it in your hand for you. And then you're just moving on. So it's also showing that you've grasped some concepts already. You may not necessarily know exactly why you're doing some of the stuff that you're doing, but you at least understand what you're doing. Like maybe the concepts and the why comes a little bit later, but at least you understand how you're doing it, if that makes sense.
That's my favorite portion of somebody's growth path is finding the light bulb that goes off when they're anticipating the next tool that you need or the next part that you need. And I'm like, yes, you understand. You totally get it. Now let's accelerate.
Exactly. Moving forward from that, the next two levels, 3 and 4, they can take a while. Because in 3, it's like I'm assessing what path I think for our company they're probably going to end up going, whether it be in the install or whether it be service, or as things are starting to progress in our own company, maybe just the drain division. And that really boils down to what is their personality? Are they outgoing? Are they good with customers? Are they kind of quiet? Are they reserved? Do they keep to themselves? Do they just open up with people that they're really used to, or can they talk to anybody type thing? And that's not really stuff you can teach that much. It's just their natural instincts. And so that is going to be my moment to be like, okay, I think I know where you're going. Obviously, you can change. But this is where I think you're going. Let's start grooming them in that path so that they can definitely be successful in whichever avenue they're going. And then once you get to level 4, you're almost getting ready to be turned out into a truck by yourself. Like maybe you could go do some easier jobs. For us, it would be more like NTE type jobs for like property management companies and things like that. So you're not really selling, but nobody's really looking over your shoulder. So if it takes a super long time for you to do something, not really the biggest deal in the world. And that's really more or less, I think, where going to tech level 1 is going to start to progress. Like you're almost there, but you're not quite there. And then all of a sudden it flips and then you become a tech level 1, at least with our company. And then you basically are on your own. Now I'm still going to be looking after you, so to speak, but you are going to be running.
I just want back up because we're focused on the apprenticeship part.
Oh, yeah.
So if I'm understanding correctly, you come in, you don't know anything at all. You come in, tech level 1, we'll give you 30 days roughly. That's where you have to show aptitude and initiative, show that you're willing to listen, pay attention, not be on your phone, even if you're driving. If I'm driving and there's a guy with me, of course, check your phone. Of course, something comes in, whatnot.
Let's see, with me, he's driving. I'm not.
Oh, yeah. That's a good way to keep him off the phone.
I've heard that a lot.
Takes that right out of the equation. And you better not be on your phone.
Yeah. That's actually perfect because I was about to say, if something comes up and I want to talk to him about it, like educationally, and he's on his phone, he's not going to be attentive. I don't know what he's doing. I don't want to interrupt him. This is my thought process. But if he's driving and you can at any point start talking to him, educating, asking him questions. So that's good.
Right. Plus it allows me to do paperwork while we're going from point A to point B.
And then tech level 2, they've proven they have the aptitude. Now you're looking for them to show initiative. You're looking for them to understand what the job is, what they need, what they're doing. They're taking the effort. They're having things prepared. They're thinking like you, making it easier like yours. 1 and 2 are designed to go really fast because for us, different levels come with different pay grades and no one wants to be digging for minimum wage no longer than they have to. As well, they shouldn't be. if you're an apprenticeship.
Right.
You should be making a decent living wage through your apprenticeship. And we're doing that. 3, they are, the big difference is there. You said you start to do stuff on their own, sort of say, or
That's more like level 4, but level 3 is really more, I'm getting an idea of whether you're going to be like on the install team, you're going to be going into service and maybe being able to just do like repairs and things like that. Or I think what's coming in our company now is like the drain division. It's going to come down to what they seem to show a little bit more interest in and what they seem to have better aptitude towards, and probably their personality.
Okay, I see. So 1 and 2, they're getting the fundamentals down. Level 3, it sounds like they're getting an idea of which way they want to go. So let's say they're leaning towards service. At that point, maybe they'll start riding with me, or they'll be focusing more on the service part versus the project side, making sure that's really what they want. And then when they graduate to service, then that's when I take over fully. And then they start doing ride-alongs, learning how to talk to the customer,
Right.
stuff like that.
If they have technical questions, they can call me, obviously, or you, or the project manager.
Grant, do you have any guys that are coming up through that apprentice program that you're like, man, this guy's pretty well rounded. I don't really want to put him in only install, service, or drain. And did you just throw him out at all of it?
Right now, I've only got one guy so far, and he started off on install, and I'm pretty sure he's going to end up going back there. But I don't want to make his decision for him. It's just really more or less like when I'm saying I get a feel for it, it's just this is what I think they're going to go for. But if they throw a curveball at me and they're like, "Oh, I want to do service," and it's just, "Oh, okay," then these are the things that we're going to have to work on in order for you to be successful in this avenue. Otherwise, you're going to have a hard time doing it. Sometimes that's just getting out of your shell. If someone's really quiet, you don't really have that luxury when you're with customers. You got to be able to communicate with them effectively. You don't necessarily have to be like the most outgoing person, though it helps, but you have to be able to effectively communicate. You can't just be looking down at your shoes all the time when you're talking to them, not showing any confidence whatsoever, because if you don't seem to have confidence in what you're doing, they're sure as hell not going to think you have confidence in what you're doing. Even if you don't have confidence, you at least have to project confidence and make them think you know what you're doing.
That was something that I really struggled with when I first started, was having the confidence of presenting the prices, presenting exactly, I know how to do this, I'll take care of it. I don't know. When I was in high school, I was a lot more introverted. Now that I talk to people every day, I'm much more extroverted. And so I just have naturally grown into that, but it definitely takes a while to figure out your comfort zone for talking to just strangers every day.
As time goes by, you just get better at reading the situation, reading the vibe of the person that you're dealing with. Some people I know I can just completely be myself with and just be wild and crazy and squirrel. Other times it's just, okay, this person's like just all about business. And so it's just, okay, I'm going to bother them the least amount as I possibly have to and then get the job done. But you come across all kinds. There's some people who are just completely batshit crazy, and you're just like, oh my God.
When you talk about service versus install or projects, I see it as it really does come down to your communication skills, which way you're going to prefer to go. Service comes before plumbing in both the description of the trade and importance. When I first started working here in Phoenix, I did not understand that difference at all. My old boss would say that you can teach anyone to plumb, but teaching them to be likable is something that they have to come up with on their own. So some people might just really not be good with people or want to try and get better with people, and that's okay. It really comes down to the hard skills versus the soft skills. You're going to start picking up on that before they finish. What is your opinion on the difference between the soft skills and the hard skills?
I've always considered myself like an extroverted introvert. I like my alone time and I like not having to compromise with anyone. But when I have to be extroverted, like it's one of those things where I can just flip the switch and turn it on when I have to. Otherwise, I like being quiet. I ended up using humor as a escape mechanism. Like one of those things where I would make fun of myself before anybody else does, because then guess what? I've already done it. It takes the power away from you. But then I've been able to harness that into actually being able to joke around with people, almost being able to understand, okay, this is probably going to be funny. Because if you can get somebody to laugh, the walls just come crumbling down. Even if you're not really the most knowledgeable at the hard skills, the soft skills can get you the rest of the way there. They almost give you almost like a somewhat of a pass. Okay, this guy's not the fastest guy in the world, but I like him. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Whereas if you don't have any kind of a personality whatsoever, and then you're also seemingly not really that good, they're going to be like, yeah, I'm never having this guy.
It can go to the extreme where even say you're doing the plumbing, you can do the technical stuff, you can do the drains, you can do whatever's asked for you, but you're not the best, you're not the most efficient, whatever the case. But then you get into service, you find out you really like customers, you really like talking to customers, you like doing that more than the work. You could go to all the way to the extreme where all you're doing is selling to customers and you could leave all of the technical stuff behind. At the same point, you could go the other way, go to new construction and only have to worry about the technical side. You don't have to worry about talking to anyone but your coworkers. So it's whatever the apprentice wants. It doesn't have to be one or the other, or it could be a mix of both.
Exactly.
So it really is down to what you want as an apprentice. And right now the industry is, you can have your choice. Right now, there's no fighting for service positions or new construction.
Downside is the day isn't over until the jobs are over. That can suck. Whereas with projects, it's like more of set time in, set time out for the most part. So you do everything you can one day, you pick up where you left off the next. I do miss that sometimes. But then when it comes to service, the ability to make money is definitely better than what it would be on install.
Yeah, for sure. Josh, what was the difference between your levels? Or was it different level 1, 2, and 3, and 4? Or how did it work for yours?
It's similar, and this is probably where Grant's going with like Tech 1, 2, 3, 4 stuff. So whenever I first started over there, I started as, we had like star ratings. And so I started as 1-star rating. It means you don't really know much. And until you check off all of these boxes, let's say, for example, it's how to sweat pipe, how to make PEX connections, how to cut PVC and clean it and stuff like that. Like very simple tasks. Like once you can do all those, your manager will sign off on those and you can graduate to basically level 2. And this is, maybe it's not quite that basic. Maybe it's like installing garbage disposals, putting P-traps in, fixing faucets or something standard. But once you completed all those tasks and he knew that you were proficient in those tasks, you would move up to the next star level, and that would be your pay increase on commission at that time. And it was a really strange commission pay structure, I thought. But over time, as you got quicker and better and you didn't have callbacks, you could make significantly more money as you grew. The only thing that I would say that was rough is once I would get to level 4. The only way to get to level 5 is if you were like the field supervisor, and there's a guy that's been there for 20 years. So I'd ask my manager, I was like, hey, can I be an additional field supervisor? And he finally did sign off like on my 5th year there. And so I graduated to that 5th star, but I was like, I feel like the pay structure hasn't moved as quickly as it should have for me to get to this point. And so at that point, we renegotiated my structured pay there, and it did increase, which was great. But I think it's a good way to have something that a manager can sign off on and say, yes, I know he knows how to rebuild toilets. I know he knows how to install new toilets. I know he knows how to put in skirted toilets or stuff like that. That's like the 3 different levels of toilet stuff that I have seen over the years. I like the growth mechanism of it as long as there's accountability with it, so that they know that you're not, oh, this guy's been going out and getting a bunch of callbacks. Clearly, we're not going to move him up the level yet because he's not getting them right yet. So another portion of the sales part that we had was we had like a goal for the week, which I can't remember what the goal. It was like you had to sell 65 minutes per job, and I'm not going to go super far into the pay structure, but 65 minutes really wasn't that hard to hit. Like doing a drain was like 45 minutes. Doing a toilet rebuild was like 30 minutes. So you're halfway there. You add like a shut off or 2, you're at 65 minutes. Once they start seeing that you're hitting their goal per call, basically, and you're hitting that goal or over that goal, like week after week, that's when they start really taking into account, all right, this guy knows what he's doing, and they really move you up pretty quickly. I know for a while, it was probably between year like 4 and 5, close to before I left, I had like 42 weeks in a row I had goal. And then, of course, I had one trash week that screwed it all up. But I was like, man, I was trying to go for a year. Grant, you had said earlier, you want to give back to the trade itself. And I feel like all of us as plumbers collectively, we should feel obligated to invest our time and knowledge and experience back into the people that are coming after us, because there's some statistics out there that are saying for every 5 master plumbers that retire, we're only replacing them with 2. And that's just not going to cut it here in 10, 15, 20 years. Even now, it's not cutting it.
No, and because of that, we're going to basically be pricing ourselves out of work. People aren't going to be able to afford it no matter what it is. I look at, you can only really charge so much for a toilet flapper. I think realistically speaking, once it gets to $500, people are going to be like, what?
Exactly.
It would likely cause homeowners to start doing plumbing on their own. And then all that stuff would be, people just wouldn't even call us for that, which is okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't miss it, but
see, and then they're just going to watch all of the SleepyPlumbr videos, and then I'll somehow make money off that eventually.
there you go.
Anyone listen to this in an apprenticeship, what are some tips or advice that you would give them to get through their apprenticeship?
Number one, be hungry. Look for something to do all the time, no matter what it is, whether it be cleaning up tools, grabbing fittings, trying to be a cut man, ground man, dig, sweep, anything. Try to be busy. Don't ever let anybody catch you just standing around doing nothing. That's the most important thing. Doesn't matter. Even if you're just running around the truck, as long as they only see you run around at once, moving. Always stay moving. Try to be productive in some way, shape, or form. Because ultimately, until you get to a certain level that you've graduated to, you're a drain on the company. You're not making them any money, which means that they want to get you through those levels until you're actually starting to make the money. Okay, if you're digging on a job, you're making the money. But let's be honest, you're not going to learn anything just digging. You're going to learn how to dig, but that's it. A laborer can do that. So you want to be able to start making that company money, because up until that point, they're investing money in you. So they want a return on their investment. So rise up those ranks as fast as you possibly can.
Unless you have a shovel in your hand where you're actually doing something that a plumber can't do, which means it frees him up to do other things, or if you're running pipe in an attic, or then you're making the company money. But other than that, if apprentice is just there doing a service call, you're not providing any value really, because the plumber could just do it. However, what you can do is provide value to that particular plumber by being a step ahead, by having his tools ready, by cleaning his van, by being productive to him so that it frees him up to do other things.
Driving.
One of the biggest things that I found that really helped me coming up and that I see in others is pieces and like parts identification. Knowing what the piece is called in the field, knowing what we call it here at this company. It might be something different to a supply house, or it might be something different to a different company, but whatever we call it, whenever I say, hey, I need a drop ear 90, they know exactly what it is. They can go grab it and bring it to me. It's perfect. That's really important to me.
Absolutely.
When I was done with the jobs for the day, I'd come back to the shop and we'd have a big order of parts come in, and the shop guy, because he wanted to help me out, he was like, hey, open up all those boxes, go through the inventory order, learn the part names that are on that inventory, and then go put them upstairs on our inventory, which might have different names. Figure them out. And if you have any questions, let me know. And that really helped me just identify, okay, this is that, this is this, cool. And then it really gave me a fast track to help get myself into a truck a little bit quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, hand tools. Like, if a guy asks you for a pair of channel locks, know what those are.
Yeah, it just comes back to saving that plumber time. I would say that being on time, that's one.
Always be on time. Matter of fact, early is on time is late. And if you're late, don't bother showing up.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not the first time you're in a city. Account for traffic. Then the next thing would be ask questions, no matter how stupid. If I'm riding with someone, if they're asking me plumbing questions or drilling into more of the concepts, that is a green flag. We can talk about their personal life. In fact, if all they want to talk about is bullshit in their personal life, I'm going to let them. I'm not going to force them to learn or ask questions. But if he is asking me questions specifically about plumbing, staying on task, that's really impressive. And it shows me that he understands the opportunity and he's willing to invest his time to become better. And I think the last one, this is something that I was told when I was an apprentice, that looking back now, it would be a huge green flag. We would do water heaters. And instead of just throwing the cardboard back there, I would actually take the time, without him telling me, not even having to tell me, cutting it up into squares, putting them neatly in the back of the truck and loading the water heater. And the owner of the company that I was at the time, he's the one that came to me and pointed that out specifically, that it showed to him I was committed or paying attention to detail. It checked some boxes. So
told you he was thorough.
But it just goes back what we're all saying is staying busy, helping where you can, even if it's just cutting up boxes, which says a lot.
Organization, I'm OCD on how I organize things. But dude, it makes the job go by faster if you put it back where it came from.
Seriously, like, organization is key.
It just goes for everything. If you know where it's at, you don't waste time and mental energy looking for, getting frustrated the whole time. Where's that fucking tool? Where's it at? And then you
Right.
finally find it after 25 minutes and you're just frustrated and mad and you just, not
That's
to
why
mention now
I
you
always
wasted
put my
time.
tools back in the exact same
Mhm.
spot because then I can take a glance and be like, oh, something's not there.
Mhm.
Organization is the key to being efficient and also doing things pretty much the exact same way. I run my jobs like an assembly line. I do every type of job almost the exact same way so that A, I can almost be on autopilot, and B, so I don't miss any steps. And I also know that I'm thoroughly checking everything to the extreme.
That organization in your van is the foundation for your mindset on jobs. I just had my truck detailed and I feel so much better just sitting in it. If you're having a bad time, if you're frustrated with work, with calls, whatever the case, first thing I would ask, is my truck organized? Because it piles, it's mental friction as soon as you see the back of that truck, as soon as you open it up. And if it's in front of your truck is dirty, it's as soon as you open the door to go to that first call. It smells weird. You see the Gatorade, the energy drinks on the floor, just stuff everywhere, and you get
That was
into
another
it.
thing. That guy always left his trash in the front of
That's
my
a big
truck.
one.
That's another
That's a
tip.
big
Don't
one.
ever leave your trash in the guy's truck.
Don't be that
Never.
guy.
Take it with you.
Take it.
Yeah, definitely a red flag. It just shows he doesn't
Every
care.
time.
He's not aware. The condition of your truck, that's your office, that's your personal workspace. Grant, thanks so much for coming on. This is really great because I wasn't really sure where you were at now, and now you're definitely starting to articulate it. It's challenging coming from a place where the company really had no organization whatsoever. No SOPs, no ways of doing anything, barely a price book for some time. Not $50 an angle stop, which,
Hey, man.
if you're listening and you heard that and you're a plumber, you know how absolutely low that is.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, up until you came in, I was stuck in my ways and stuck in like the old time. And I remember the first time I heard the lady in the office be like, I overheard her telling one of the guys, like, yeah, I think it's $99 an angle stop. And I was like, what?
Which is still cheap.
How is that possible? What?
It's good for a one-man show.
That'd be good for, if you do, yeah, that
Absolutely.
wouldn't be too bad. But dude, I got to say, I've seen what you've been doing. I think you're doing great. It's awesome. I love working with you, and I don't think they could have chose anyone better for that position. Josh, what's your name so people can check you out if they want?
I am SleepyPlumbr, plumber without the E. I don't know if you can see that at all.
There you go. That's
There you
perfect.
go.
Nice.
SleepyPlumbr. I'm on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And then if you want to follow me on Facebook, I am Josh JB Burleson.
And Grant, how could they reach you?
I am GrantGThePlumber at gmail.com.
Nice. All you apprentices out there are looking to get into apprenticeship, send Grant an email and pick his brain and see if you can get any advice from him, because that's the guy right there. He's the one that will be training you if you join a company.
Yeah, I'm going to learn you something.
Learn them good. And I am Brandon the Plumber at, no, I am. I'm Brandon at BrandonThePlumber.com. No, that's not even it either. Fuck, what am I doing? Brandon at ThatPlumbingPodcast.com, Brandon the Plumber on YouTube, where you could catch the video podcast. We do have a Discord server up and running. You can check that out in the link in the description. For this one, I'm going to leave with a quote from one of my first bosses. His name's Lou Hobaika. He owned Hobaika Services, and he did two things for me. He taught me how to be ethical to customers, probably to my detriment because I was not on commission, so I was giving away discounts before they even asked. I probably should not have been on with him as long as I was due to revenue. He also said, you can teach anyone to plumb, but you can't teach them to be likable. They're a great company to work for. They have a great apprenticeship program. They'll teach you HVAC, electrical, the whole 9 yards. All right, guys, we'll see y'all again next week.